Good morning. I'd like to talk today about little Sister Magdalene of Jesus. Now, this gal grows up as Madeleine Houghton, and this is in France, and she felt a very strong devotion to Jesus. I just felt like she had some mystical visions as a young gal, and she would go on and try to look for a group that would match her feeling of her vocation. And she didn't find it. She looked at the Sisters of Contemplations, looked at the sisters doing these major actions, and just didn't feel like there was a fit there. And then she read the biography of Charles de Faucelt. I'm sure I should do a reflection on him one day. But anyway, he wrote about this idea that there should be a new kind of contemplative life. It should be rooted in the world to the poor. And it should be based on the hidden years of Jesus, when all the time he spent, when he wasn't doing anything, he was just among the poor. And so this was his idea, and this is what she thought, this is a good thing. Now, she's a younger gal and follows this, but she had family obligations, she had some health issues herself, so it's not until she's 38 years old that she starts to work on this. But when she comes to it, and this is a quote she has, it's pretty good. It says, "As you work, as you come and go, as you pass among the crowds, be a contemplative will mean simply that you try to turn to Jesus within you and enter into conversation with him as with the one you love most in the world." So it's like you're supposed to be in the poor, but you're supposed to be a part of the poor and see Jesus right there in that presence. So she goes to, I think it's Algiers, excuse me a second. So she sets off for Algiers, and there she meets this René Follemon, who had done years before, this is 33, that he had established a group of priests that were monks that were doing this exact thing, living among the poor and doing exactly what Faucelt had talked about with this idea of living with the poor. In his view, he was going to live with the Muslims and be in peace because he's basically just not trying to convert them, he's just trying to live for them. And it's a fascinating idea. Now, she puts in the front of her name little, and the word little has special meaning for Magdalene of Jesus. And the idea was that she envisioned Jesus as an infant and in his helplessness, and that's how God presents himself to us, not as an all-powerful, but rather as the all-vulnerable God. And it's in this light that she sees herself, that that's an example for herself, for her to follow. Now, it takes a while for this order of girls to get recognized, but she had followers continually joining her. And as she had started, she just envisioned it right there in Algiers and wouldn't go farther. But as this grew, and people heard of this, it grew and grew. In her lifetime, there's 280 fraternities. Now, they say fraternity because the group of sisters can be anywhere from 2 to 6 or 7, and they would not wear habits, but wear denim with a little symbol on it, and they were the little sisters of Magdalene of Jesus, and so they were. She then in her later years gets quite healthy, and it goes from, now they're not just doing it in places. They've done it in Cameroon, in Eskimo villages in Alaska. They set up in Southeast Asia, in the slums of London, Beirut, and Washington, D.C. These gals doing this, living among the poor and serving the poor, but having to make their own wages in these poor areas. So they're very much a part of the poor. That they go to all places. She's very interested in going into the communist countries, which she did very quietly, but she went into the eastern countries. She went into Russia. And as she got older, she actually got healthier. So she actually made her last trip into Russia, I think it's in 80. She dies in 88, so she went in 88 to Russia. In 89, she passes away. But imagine that we live and try to live with Jesus, but not try to proclaim it. to just live, but to live with the poor. Not to live in the affluence that I'm living in and we all live in, but to live among the poor. Now that's a fascinating calling and one that she fit well. And it calls us, I think, to see Jesus, especially in others, especially in what we would consider marginalized people or the ones we might roll our eyes at. Those could be the very ones in which I could see Jesus if I tried.